Shalom, friends. Robert Gottslig here. The Apostle Paul asked a question in Romans 11, verse 1. He said, has God cast away his people? Speaking of the Jewish people. And he answers it immediately with the resounding, God forbid. When I think of all the persecution that's come the Jewish people's way by the name of Christianity, sometimes I want to hang my head pretty low. But I do realize that not everybody that professed to be a Christian indeed was one. I think to paraphrase Corrie ten Boom's father, he said, just because a mouse is in a cookie jar doesn't make him a cookie, and how true that is. But even that being said, I do realize that there are those that were saved, and there are today born-again believers that have persecuted and are persecuting the Jewish people. There are maybe some watching this that think that God indeed has cast away his people. Well, I would just challenge you, friends, just to reread Romans chapter 11, because the Apostle Paul couldn't make it more clear that God indeed is not finished with his people. God has a plan for them because God loves the Jewish people. Jeremiah 31 verse 3 tells us, with an everlasting love. When you go on to read Romans chapter 11, Paul talks about this wild olive tree and this natural olive tree. And we being the Gentiles, believers grafted into the natural olive tree. Paul tells us, he says, don't boast against those natural branches. Don't boast against the Jewish people. He says, remember that you do not support the root, but the root supports you. What is that root? Friends, you can find that root in Genesis chapter 12. It's the Abrahamic covenant. What was promised to Abram, a land that he'd be a blessing to the world, that his name would be great. God would bless them that bless thee and curse those that curseth thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And when you come to Galatians chapter 3, the Apostle Paul tells us that that seed that came through Abraham, singular speaking, that was the Messiah. And so, friends, I say to my Christian friends, your salvation in Jesus the Messiah, in Yeshua, is promised back there in Genesis 12. And because of that, you have to realize that God also promised the Jewish people a land. And that's what we're seeing today, friends. You see, we can't pick and choose the parts that we like and don't like of that Abrahamic covenant, for God swore it by himself in Genesis chapter 15. He sealed the deal. Hebrews 6:13 says, for God could swear by no greater that day, he swore by himself. Abraham was in a deep sleep, and God himself made that promise. And so, friends, when you see the nation Israel being gathered back, and you see the desert blossoming like a rose, and you see the waste cities being rebuilt, and the language being restored, and Jerusalem being a cup of trembling, as Zechariah spoke about in the 12th chapter, know this, friends, that that's our insurance policy, that God will keep his promise to us. Hello friends, Robert Gottslig here. If you like that video on my YouTube channel, just hit the subscribe button and be sure to share it with all your friends. And if you'd like for me to come speak at your church, conference, or event in your area, just message me in the comments below and I'd be happy to be there. Also, if you'd like more information on the Friends of Israel Gospel Ministry, just visit our website at foi.org. And so until next time, shalom and God bless.